Hey guys, after I uploaded that Google SketchUp version for your boards on how to do a mockup, I got a bunch of questions about the Photoshop mockup that I use before I even go into SketchUp, so I figured I could do a little bit to help you guys out. I'm using version CS4. If you're using earlier versions, that shouldn't matter. What we're going to do today is pretty much some simple functions, so it should translate over to an earlier program if you're using that. Now, the first thing we're going to do is open up a file. I'm going to start totally from scratch. We're going to go to New, and we're going to set our dimensions. You can use the drop down box to switch to inches if you want. 24 is my width, 48 is my height. My resolution, I usually don't worry about setting that too high just because I'm not printing this. If you're going to print, then obviously you would want to change that over to a higher resolution. Just for this one, I'm just going to use the RGB color, which is fine. I'm also going to choose the white background. I could use the transparency, which we're going to, but for start, we're going to fill it with white because that'll make making a background easier later. So I'll just click OK, and you'll see I get a file that is in my size with a locked background. You'll also notice I have the rulers out, which is also where you get your guides from. If you don't have that, it should be under View and click on Rulers to show, and then we'll click in there to pull out some guides here in a little bit. I'm going to start by double clicking on that layer. I'll rename it background. And what that's done is now made that an editable layer that I can use, and also that white space is my exact size of my layout here. So I'm going to duplicate this one time. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that, and this will end up using for the outer border. And I'll duplicate it one more time and use that for my inner border. Okay. The other thing too, whenever you're doing this, Photoshop stacks layers, and that's how you see them appear. You can't tell any difference right now because they're all white, but I always want to make sure my inner border is underneath my outer border, and you'll see why in just a minute. The other thing I want to do for the inner and outer border is I want to turn this fill color all the way down to 0. And by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm keeping the shape, but I'm getting rid of the white color. And if I turn off the background now, you'll see that. If I were to turn this back up, you'll notice I have my white background back for that one. But I put those on 0. Anything that's going to be an object on the screen, I'm going to have the fill down for 0 whenever I want to have the transparency on it. We'll turn our background back on. And excuse me, I'm fighting a little bit of a head cold today, so bear with me on that. First thing I want to do is lay out my guides for where my hole's going to go. I'll click over my rulers, drag this out to where it is at 12 inches, which is center. Drop that off, and then I'll also drag from the top down to where we're at 9 inches, and I'll just line that up. And you'll notice I'm having a little bit of trouble here lining up, and I'll show you a way you can change that in just a second. I have my center point, but I need the outside point for my circle. So I'm going to drag a few more guides out. Before I do that, though, I'm going to zoom in so that I can see the board a little bit better. And you'll notice now I can see all of my numbers. When you zoom in, your rulers will expand and contract to let you see more numbers or less. So this time I'm going to drag out another guide from the side. And I know my hole is 6 inches, so I'm going to basically take 3 inches off of 12, which is my center point. So I'll basically go to 9. And you'll notice it'll be a little bit easier for me to put it right on 9 this time. And I'll pull another one out, and I'll add 3 inches, which will take me to 15, and I'll drop that off. So now I have a great guide to draw my circle. So to do that, I'm going to grab my ellipse tool. If you don't see this tool, if you see the rectangle tool, you can click and hold down and switch over to the ellipse tool. And I'm going to put my crosshairs right at the intersection of those two guides. And I'm going to click and hold, and at the same time I'm going to hold Shift and Alt, and I'm going to drag out my circle until my edge of my ellipse tool is just touching my guidelines. And what that's done is now giving me a selection that is the size of my hole centered on that point. I'm also going to create another layer over here just simply by going Layer, New, Layer. And this one I'm going to call my hole, and we'll hit that. But all I've done is a selection that's not permanent at the moment. So what I want to do here is fill that, and you can do that quickly by holding down Control and hitting Backspace, and that will control or will fill with the background color you have selected. So yellow is fine because we're not going to see it anyway. We'll hit Control Backspace. That filled it there. Before I get rid of that selection, I want to click on the background layer here and hit Delete, And what that has done, if I switch this layer off, I've now cut my transparency hole in my background. So I'm going to turn that back on, and I'm going to deselect my section there. I'm going to use this hole to make my hole ring. So I again want to turn my fill all the way down, and I want to drag out one more guide here, and I know that the edge of the circle is at 9, and I use 1-inch hole rings. So I can put this on 8, and now I can double click on the whole layer, come into my layer styles here, click on the stroke, and you can see this in the background. As I increase that stroke size, it's set to outside, I'm adding a stroke around that circle that will double as my hole ring, and I'll just expand it until it touches my guide here. So now that's roughly a 1-inch hole ring. I can change the color of it by clicking on anything I want down here. We'll do that later once we bring our logo in so we can match our colors. I have that set. I'm just going to click OK, and this is separate from the background, so I can always turn it off. I'm making a board that doesn't have a hole ring. Now that we have that finished, let's work on some of our borders. Let's drag out a few more guides. I know my guide, for my outer border, I use mine at 2 inches for this particular one, and my inner border is a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go 1/2 inch past that, and I'll drop that one off. And I'm going to start with my inner border first. So we'll double click on the inner border. Again, we'll go to stroke, and we'll just leave it black for now. We're going to change this to inside because we want it to happen inside of the shape we have. We're going to just keep extending that out until it touches the guideline, and you can zoom in on before you come into your layer style if you want to get exactly on the line, but I'm just going to eyeball it for here. All right, so we've got that there. We'll click OK, and I'll click on my outer border now, do the exact same thing, except this time I'm going to change the color so you can see what's happening. I'll bring in, I'm going to switch this to inside, bring this in until it touches my 2-inch guide layer or guideline, which is roughly about right there, and we'll click OK. Now you can always refine this by zooming in to an edge however close you want to go. Actually got it pretty good, and then going back into that stroke and adjusting it however you would like, just to get it perfect. You can also type in it 1 pixel at a time if you really want to be precise with it. I'm going to go with that for now. And if I double click on my hand over here, it takes me back out to full screen view. You'll notice that I now have created a board that has a 1/2 inch inner, 2-inch outer border, and a 1-inch hole ring. Now what I want to do from here basically is bring in my logo. So I will go to my file, and I said earlier I create all of my logos in Illustrator for the decal purposes. So I'm going to open as a smart object, and what a smart object is you can bring in a vector file and then resize it as much as you want to without losing the information. So if you shrink it all the way down and then decide you want to blow it all the way back up, you can, and without it ever getting grainy or blurry or anything along those lines. So we're going to go into our mock-ups, and we'll just pull out that same one we were working with before, which is the Ballbusters paintball logo. We'll open it, and we'll open it here. Now this logo is again a vector image, so I'm going to drag it over to this file. It's going to come in bigger because they're different resolutions, but we can actually click on the handles and shrink it. If you don't have the handles, that's a setting you can turn on. You can always go up to edit and free transform, and when you click on that you'll get the handles. But I'm going to just shrink this down a little bit for now just to get it in eyeball position, and you hit enter to place it. Now I'm going to move this just out of my way for a second, because what I'm going to do now is set my height to where I want it to be at and my width, so I know where I want it, how the size I want to be at. I want this one to be an 18-inch decal, so our board is 24 inches. So basically I need to take 6 inches, which is 3 inches off of each side. So I'm going to go just past my 1/2 inch mark to 3 inches on this side, and I'm going to go just before, or actually right at 21 on this side. And now I'm working with those lines. I can align this pretty close to where I want it, and then I can take, and holding down the shift button so I don't lose my proportions, I can click and drag, put it in place, hit enter, and then if I know exactly where I want it to go on the board, I can drag another guideline down if I need to, or I can eyeball wherever I think it should go. I'm going to put it at about 26 just to see where that looks, so we'll put that there. I'll take my Ball Busters logo. I'm just going to use the arrow keys. If you hold down shift, you can nudge it further instead of just one move at a time. Or you can click and hold on it, hold down shift, and move things in straight lines if you'd like to. So I'm going to put it right there just to go with that. Now what I want to do is use that logo to color my other images. I'm going to do my outer stroke first, or the outer border first. So I'll click on stroke, click on the color, and now if I move over here, I get the little eyedropper. So I'm going to drop that on and get that blue, and click OK. I'll do my inner border next. Click on that. I'll click the yellow, get that, and then also I want to do my whole ring, and that one will be blue. I'll click on that blue again. Okay, now I can leave this white. The board you guys saw had a little bit different whole ring. Did not have the yellow, or did not have an inner border. It just had a yellow top. If I wanted to do that, I can double click on the background, choose color overlay, and I could match that same yellow just like this if I wanted to. Or one other option is too, I'll show you this. Let me open it up real quick. I went and got a wood grain texture just out of Google Images, which you can find just about any of that you want. I'll open that up. Take a second to load. I'll drag this over to my timeline. You'll see it gives me another layer here. So we'll just leave that layer where it is, and we'll adjust the positioning of it just where you think it looks good. And I can transfer that hole by clicking on choosing my background layer, grabbing my magic wand here, and if I click inside of the hole, I'll make that same selection I had before, click back over to my layer 1 or my grain layer and hit the delete key, and then I can deselect it, and now I've got a board that has a wood grain in it with a couple of borders around the outside and my whole ring. If I wanted to change the stain color of that wood, I could just simply go up to image and go to adjustments and then to the hue and saturation, and I could choose the colorize function, and I could go bring up my saturation here, something that I think would match the stain that I'm considering choosing pretty well. If we were going, let's say we were using like a cherry, we could just simply add a little bit more red into it, turn up the saturation a little bit here, to get that look going. I always tell my clients that the stain is going to be close. It's not going to be identical, but it'll be close. And we can go with that. And now that I have this file, there's two things that I would do with this. First, I'd save the PNG like we discussed before in the other tutorial, but I would also save a Photoshop document that had all these guides in it for me so that I could create more boards in the future without having to constantly set them up and cut out holes and all the other things. So definitely save this. You can call it mock-up, whatever you want to call it, but hang on to it, because when once you save it as a flat PNG, the guides and everything disappear whenever you open that up. If you save the PSD file, you get all this information back with you. So anyway, hope this helps you guys out. If you have any questions, again, just PM me or email me.